Great. Everybody's in now, Keely, so we'll get started.
Perfect. Good morning, and thank you, Pam, and happy 2022, everybody. I just wanted to welcome everybody this morning, and we were saying that we had a significant increase in attendance when we decided to put this on Zoom, so everybody is still mindful and happy to see your face, Michael, up close and personal, just like this. So that's a good thing. And another fun fact, we actually had this meeting on this exact same day a year ago, January 20th. We also didn't have to worry about a snowstorm today, which usually happens when we have these breakfast meetings. So thank you, everybody. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions for at the end, please let us know in the chat box, which is at the very bottom of your video screen in Zoom. You can unmute so you can ask the question in person. Until then, we ask you to please keep your mic on mute, and we will just help keep the feedback down and the noise in the background. And I want to thank very much our partners, and there's Mr. Tom Russell joining us now from the Thousand Islands Community Development Corp. So thank you for sponsoring today, Tom, as you always do. So we very much appreciate that. Just a little bit about Thousand Islands Community Development Corp. Canada's COVID-19 Economic Response Plan has helped to protect millions of jobs, provide emergency support to families, and keep businesses afloat as they contend with the impact of the devastating pandemic. A central component of this plan was the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund, and I know when we've talked about that, the RRF, we have to roll our R's, which assisted with those who may not have been eligible to other programs or may have required additional relief. This program has now been fully subscribed and no longer accepting applications. If your business is in need of support, please reach out to your local CFDC, Brockville, Prescott, or Smiths Falls. Next, I am going to be introducing Mr. Barrett. Michael Barrett is a member of Parliament for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, where he was re-elected in the 44th general election on September 20th, 2021. Having previously served as the Shadow Minister for Ethics and the Deputy Shadow Minister for Small Business and Export Promotion, Michael now serves as the Deputy House Leader for Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition and co-chair of Question Period Planning. During this time as a Member of Parliament, Michael has been a tireless advocate of regional priorities such as improving digital and physical infrastructure, as well as supporting families, farmers, seniors, veterans, and lowering taxes. Before his election to the House of Commons, Michael served in the Canadian Armed Forces as a telecommunication lineman, worked in the private sector as a human resource manager, and served as municipal councillor in the township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. Michael resides in Leeds, Grenville with his wife Amanda and their 5 children, Luke, Amma, Michaela, James, and Nathan. After the MPP presents, we will have, like I said earlier, we will be taking questions from the floor. So with that, Mr. Barrett, the floor is yours.
Hey, good morning, and thanks so much for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year to everyone. This is the first opportunity as I'm scrolling through the participant videos. Just imagine I'm waving at you individually right now. I wish that we could have walked around the room and said good morning today in person at Moose McGuire's, which was the original plan. It's been as you were coming on, I was saying that this snowfall is significant that we've had this week, and there's another one of life's challenges. But this really is a great place that we live. And we are the envy of people in other areas because there's so many efficiencies that we enjoy, and the great work of, in this case, our public works employees across the riding of Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, and here in Brockville. So hat tip to them, and to all of you for starting your day with this conversation. And I know it was mentioned that you can ask questions. I would very much like to chat. So please do ask some questions, and I'll give you, kind of my take on where we're at as we start this year. It didn't get off to on a great foot, and that's evidenced by us speaking virtually today. And the dominoes kind of fall from there. The latest wave of COVID-19 has forced governments into action, and the actions that they've taken will meet the satisfaction of some, and it will, for others, it won't. And for some, they've gone too far, and for others, they haven't gone far enough. And that runs the full spectrum of everything from assistance to individuals, assistance to businesses, industry-specific assistance, but as well as public health measures, and that includes lockdowns. I'll just say right off the top that, I really expected that by this point in the pandemic that we would not be facing lockdowns anymore. And I think that there are a number of ways that the federal government could have better prepared us for the position that we're in today, and particularly using our region as an example, with the extremely high uptake on vaccines, first and second dose. If you wanted to compare us to a neighbor like the Kingston area, who had introduction of vaccines earlier with the pharmacy program for AstraZeneca, before any vaccines or regular vaccines were available here in the Leeds, Grenville, Lanark health unit, our vaccine uptake outstripped that area very quickly as soon as they were available. And I genuinely believe, and I know this from my conversations with people, that people weren't getting vaccinated as some kind of just as some kind of selfish action. Well, I've got to take care of myself. They weren't doing it. They weren't doing it, just for someone that they lived with, or it was a community effort. I have heard it over and over again that folks got vaccinated because they wanted life to get back to normal. That means different things to different people, but to so many people on this call, back to normal affects your business. It affects the agency that you work for. It affects your entire industry. And then, of course, there's all the personal effects of normal, being able to have loved ones into our home. I in advocating for our community, when I speak to our MPP, Steve Clark, I caution him on house tongue-in-cheek on the gathering limits in homes. When I heard the list of my family read out there, we're at 7 and you're only allowed 5 people in a household. So I always joke with MPP Clark that I'm going to have to send 2 kids over to his place if they shrink the gathering limits anymore. And while I offer that levity to him, I do, of course, offer to him the feedback that I hear from you and that I hear from our community on the effects of certainly of business restrictions and the impact of limiting access to all the various places in our community. And you won't hear me this morning have sharp criticism for our MPP Steve Clark. And as I said off the top, I do not think that we should be in a situation where we have lockdowns. I'm sure you're going to have a great update with Minister Clark when that time comes. I encourage everyone to participate. Steve Clark was named in the Toronto Star last summer as almost having been removed from the provincial cabinet for opposing lockdowns. And that's something that he does inside that room, but not something that he does in the pages of our local papers. And I know Steve, and many of you have known Steve a lot longer than I have, and you know him to be an advocate for our area and for your agency, for your business, for our families. And so I'll leave it at that. But I would just say that my conversations with our MPP on your behalf over the course of this pandemic I've certainly felt heard and felt like our message was taken to Queen's Park, and I think we were really fortunate to have Steve at the provincial cabinet table. I think all Ontarians, frankly, were really lucky to have his voice there. We've heard over the last couple of days about the effect that vaccine mandates for truckers are going to have on our supply chain. Now, industry-specific impacts, you'll be familiar with them and how that's potentially going to affect your business. But it's not tremendously positive what that worst case scenario can look like. And of course, we're continuing to encourage the government to look at alternatives, to look at different measures that we can take aside from just closing the border to those folks who don't meet the government's latest requirement. Coupled with that potential impact on our supply chain, or that inevitable impact on our supply chain, we know that folks are facing labor shortages here in our community and across the country. And these two factors, of course, we're gonna tack on one more issue, and that's the latest inflation numbers, which are a 30-year high, closing in on 5%. Now, that number, of course, doesn't. It's 4.8%. That number, of course, doesn't include the double-digit increase year over year in home prices, which is really pricing young people out of affording a home. It's pricing most people out of home ownership, and that, of course, makes it more challenging to bring people into our area when there's a limited supply. And so that's something that you'll hear me talking about over the course of the next year. It's interesting that housing has emerged as this topic that we're hearing municipal, provincial, federal politicians talking about, seeing a lot of intergovernmental conversations about that in those meetings happening. And that's really great. And everything that I offer to you today, having just been through an election, I would encourage you to keep in mind as we go through two election cycles this year, one for the provincial government in June and one for the municipal governments in October, because it's really important that we do address the housing supply issue, which is huge. We know that aside from the rising costs of everything, we saw the price of fuel go up January 1st. The knock-on effects of labor shortages, supply chain, global supply chain issues, but now domestic supply chain issues as a result of the trucking issue, that prices are going to go up. And if they haven't already, everything is seeing huge increases. And some of it is that 4.8%, but of course, that's formulaic average. Some items, if you're trying to buy beef at the grocery store, it could be 12%. Natural gas up nearly 20%, and gasoline 30%, depending on where you're at. And as I mentioned, rent and home ownership are getting more expensive. So how did we get here? The bad timing, I guess, and kind of a perfect storm of factors. We saw really high levels of spending by the government in the lead up to the pandemic. Pretty high deficit spending tacked on to our debt. And we're in a place now where early in the pandemic, it was, no one really knew what the economy was going to need. We knew it needed help. We knew that individuals would need help, and we're pretty good at that social safety net in Canada. Obviously, there's areas that can be improved on, and we need to close the gaps where people are falling through. But early on, lots of programs were adopted. They were adopted very quickly. But what we're seeing now is that the government wants to continue that very same approach, which is it's not appropriate at this point in time. They want to introduce items for passage, and I'm speaking of the federal government, very quickly, and they present it. They want minimal or no committee study, and then it's implementation. And they'll wait till the programs expire before they offer a replacement program or a renewal of those programs. There's a couple problems with that, and I'll preface this by saying, you'll say, well, Michael, the Conservatives or the official opposition voted against the government's latest COVID relief measures in December, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, we are the official opposition and not the government, and our job is, of course, to challenge, to test, to improve on the government's agenda. It's their job to find the confidence of the House, and we do look for compromise on C2. That COVID package that they put forward, when they were trying to do it in lightning time, we proposed a compromise that would have saw it split off, help for hardest hit sectors, and like hospitality, tourism, but also to call for a minimum amount of time, and I'm not talking months or weeks, but 40 hours of committee hearings, so 1 week, so that we could hear from experts, we could hear from departmental officials and see if there was a big commitment of spending, or if there was a commitment that was actually going to help people, because the two are different, because we'll often see these programs introduced and many folks aren't eligible. And this is something that I've heard from folks on this call is, well, this program's great. I'm not eligible for whatever reason. I'm not eligible because my business wasn't open by the arbitrary date that was set. We're not eligible because we don't pay ourselves as payroll employees. We're not eligible because. So the small business owners that worked on municipal councils, and we've got nearly 100 municipal councillors in our riding. Many of them are small business owners and are not T4 employees of their own business. So those are challenges. Every time I've heard feedback, whether it was from the charitable sector in our community, whether it was from small businesses or from medium and large size producers in our community, I've been able to take that feedback back to our shadow minister, to the critic on our team, to reflect that in committee, but also directly to the government on occasion. When there's no time, when there's no daylight for that consultation, for this information to be received by you, or whether it's an association or a group that you're a part of, to kind of put their critical lens on it and allow you to then provide that feedback to me. If I'm not then able to provide that feedback to the government, the programs, we're not going to get them right. If the government is prepared to introduce legislation and then fix it later, that is a strategy, but not one that we've seen them repeat. And when they've rushed legislation, and we've really spent a lot of time trying to improve on or fix legislation that was inadequate, it takes up the bandwidth for us to do other things, us as in Canada's parliamentarians. But it also means that there's lost time for the folks who could have used that help earlier. So we need to get it right. We need to get it right the first time, and we also need to be nimble in how we're attacking these things. That latest COVID relief bill was one of the last things Parliament passed. The House of Commons and then the Senate passed in December, and then Omicron kind of washed over us, or the tides, started to come in, and Parliament hasn't sat since. And so we're not sitting for another 10 days. And so there's been no pivot, no reaction to that, and there's been new lockdown measures introduced since then. So this is a problem. It's of course creating confidence issues in business. It's creating confidence issues with individuals. We've seen dramatic impacts on people's health and their mental health as a result of all of the knock-on effects, whether it's losing their job, having to close their business owners having to reduce their staffing. And that's something that we've seen. CFIB had said that business confidence at its lowest point in 2 years. And that's one of the reasons, one of the metrics that they use is the number of full-time staff that businesses expect to reduce in the first quarter of this year. And so that's of course gonna have an impact on these job creators in our community. And we also need to make sure that we're considering the impact on the folks who support people when they're most in need of support, when they're affected by lockdowns. And I'm thinking of places like the YMCA as an example. What are we doing to make sure that they're well supported? We're a community that supports that agency, but we can't make up for a complete loss of door revenue, memberships, etc. And when we come out of lockdowns, there's an increased need for that support, those services, and so that really needs to be addressed. So, well, that doesn't sound very like a really great way to start 2022. I am optimistic for a number of reasons. One is that we've seen in this community people's willingness to support the community, and like I said, very early on, people rolled up their sleeves to get to work. They rolled up their sleeves to get vaccinated. That makes a difference, and it is not for naught, because it is helping us to turn the corner. And I think we have a really strong case to make here. And this has been my argument, that give us the roadmap to get out of this cycle of lockdowns. Give us the tools, and we'll follow the map and we'll use the tools. And we've done that. And so we're now at a point where we need to see the full deployment. And we know that in our community, even the rapid tests, when they were available, they were deployed very quickly. Folks were using those to be able to keep their employees safe, to be able to keep their businesses open, to be able to continue to do business. We see, if you go other places, if you cross the border, or since it's been open in the fall, if you even go into other communities, masking is, it's not a challenge here, because people want to be able to get back to normal. So that's my call on the government. As an opposition member, improving on what the government is putting forward is what my job is, and that's my commitment to you. And that's why you'll hear me call for committees to be able to consider legislation, for us to be able to call manufacturing associations, to be able to call the presidents of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, to be able to call the CFIB, to be able to call on Federation of Canadian Municipalities to testify a committee, to tell Parliament what we need to get our country roaring back. And that should be our focus, is getting us back on our front foot, because it's been a really tough 2 years, and it's been tougher on some than others. And we need to do what we do best. That's pick up the tools that are provided, follow that roadmap, and get to work. We just need to make sure the government's doing those things. So I'm happy to take your questions. If you don't have a question, you wanted to send it to me offline, I will drop my office email address into the chat. But there's a number of government supports that are available. I thank Tom Russell and his team for helping people. It's I always have high praise for our CFDCs, because they are the feet in the street, and they're of course able to deliver on programs locally much better than someone can attempt to do that from their office in the National Capital Region in Ottawa-Gatineau. They don't know what we need. They don't know who the folks are here. So a hat tip to them. And of course, thank the Chamber for gathering us here today and for advocating for you. my door is always open to everyone on this call. There are, like I said, a suite of programs that are currently available. And if you've been able to access them, if they are working for you, please let me know. If they are insufficient, if you are one of the many who've fallen through the cracks and there's really no help there for you, please let me know. And thank you very much for your time this morning. I look forward to taking all of your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael, and appreciate your time to spend with us. There is some questions on a couple of things, though, for my members. We do have the federal programs on our website and the blog, as opposed to also the provincial programs. So there's a point of contact there on our website just to help you guys out. And you're right, the roadmap back to recovery, that we need to have a better roadmap on that. So appreciate you speaking to that. So the first question would be from James from 401 Electric. So go ahead, James, and you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good morning, MP Barrett. Thank you for your update this morning. I would ask that maybe you put your HR cap on for a moment. One of the challenges that we're finding is attracting trades to the Brockville area. And I just wondered, are there more federal programs? Obviously, this isn't a provincial question, it's more of a writing question, but we have lots of opportunity for trades, but we can't attract them. I've heard from other trades in the area, they can't attract any talent, they can't grow, which is a bit unique. I know there's other businesses facing not being able to open, but our challenge is a little bit different in the fact that if we could get more trades to the area, I think we could grow our businesses and attract more businesses and housing and all the other things that come with that. So I just wondered what your thoughts are on that area.
Yeah, it's, we've seen a really good push. We've seen a good push provincially to shine a light on and to see what more supports can be done for the trades. And I hope that those are being well received. I hope that the impacts of that are being felt locally, and would be interested to hear from you if they are. Federally, we'll look at and I think there's some interesting or maybe exciting things that we're going to put forward in consultation with some of the private sector unions that you'll see from us over the course of the next year. I think the biggest, probably the biggest opportunity that we have as the federal government to impact the workforce is with our refugee and immigration system, and that has been a real challenge, I guess, over the course of the pandemic. The regular doors have been closed, and the regular processing has not been occurring, and so it's one area of the economy, trades, that we're seeing shortages, and it's like other areas, whether it's professional services or others, it's one area where getting our immigration stream dialed in to what our needs are as a country, we could help address that. I think that we all have a role to play when we look at how we can fill those gaps with skilled trades. And one way is, as a college grad, is to encourage our young people to pursue hands-on education and to pursue their passion. And there's many ways to do that. They don't need to, they mustn't, or they don't have to go to university to figure it out. They don't have to take an undergrad to figure things out. There's really exciting opportunities, whether it's an apprenticeship or whether it's to take a general program at college, or to dive right into what their passion is with a certificate or diploma program at college, as a pathway to pursuing a skilled trade, if that's what they want to get into. But I think that's really important, and it's a bit of a shift. I know coming through school, there was really an intense focus on that university stream, that was to be aspirational, and that the secondary option was for folks to go to college if they weren't suited for university. I think we're seeing the effects of that. And so we do a disservice when there are these opportunities, and good paying opportunities. If anyone, I mean, we're really lucky where we live. We have a very service focused. We have really service focused people who are running businesses here, but someone who's just got their own shingle out, to try and get them into, to do any trades work at your home, you're waiting a year. Why? Because of that shortage. And so we need to encourage people to get into that stream. Yep, it's a bit of a longer term thing, but it's 3-4 years out to have those people working in our community. And in the big picture, that's not such a tremendously long period of time, but that's part of it. Kind of, again, that community responsibility. Like I said, we'll look to see if there are any ways to make life a little easier for skilled tradespersons when they're making their way. That's something that we're going to put forward this year after we consult with the private sector unions. But as was mentioned at the start of the call, when I joined the Army, I learned a trade. I was a telecommunication lineman. I think it's trades are a really rewarding way to earn a living. And, certainly I'm happy to be a champion for that. So I'm not sure if that really addressed the nub of your question, but I just, again, that workforce shortage is something that we're feeling across all sectors.
Yep, I do think it answered most of the question. I think the opportunity lies in some type of incentive to get not just trades, but any potential employees to relocate to our area. And that's really what I think is going to be key. I recently relocated from the GTA in June. So I can certainly speak to the benefits of relocating this area. My commute's gone from an hour and 10 minutes every morning on the 407 down to 17 minutes. So there's cost of living is lower, wages are almost equitable. There's
Right.
problems, people can't get houses in Toronto. So that's where I see a great opportunity to come up with some type of program to attract people to this area. I think that's the opportunity, and there's the forward thinking and getting kids into the trades, absolutely. But there's the today that we have to try and solve the problems today and the growth that's going to happen in Brockville. And I think will start happening with new industry coming to Brockville as well. But thank you for your answers. Appreciate it. And if there's anything we can do to help your office with this, we'd be happy to join in and roll up our sleeves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, James. Next question would be from Rob from the YMCA. So go ahead, Rob.
Barrett, it's good to see you. The question I have, you spoke a little bit about sector stabilization for the charitable sector, and it was kind of highlighted in the budget. And although charitable sector stabilization hasn't really started to flow to us, the one program that you were helpful with was the Canada Summer Jobs Program. And that really helps out organizations and social service agencies like us. And this year it's been able to be extended into February. And I'm just wondering, has there been any consideration or dialogue about making that program year long? And because of the fact I asked that, I think it's designed to employ students when they're home in the summer. But our partners, I see on the screen here from St. Lawrence College, we employ St. Lawrence College students throughout the whole entire year because they need to work. So I think a year-long incentive program like that would benefit organizations like the Ys. So I'm just wondering if there's any sort of dialogue or opportunity to make that a 12-month year program.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And it's a really interesting idea, and it actually, I think, kind of dovetails with James's question. And what can we do to incentivize people? And we have this program that, of course, helps out agencies like the Y that does great work in our community, but also for-profit businesses are eligible for as well as our public sector partners on the call are eligible to participate in the Canada Summer Jobs Program. And it does provide an opportunity. It does provide an incentive for people to employ young people, to really give them a chance. And I think that's really important. And this is, Rob, and to specifically answer your question, I have not heard that as a suggestion of late, and so I will take that back. But this is exactly the kind of thing that happens when we're able to consult on proposals from the government. We're able to hear ideas that are a little outside of the box. When we're able to target very specific initiatives, you'll see much greater uptake, I think, from folks when the price tag on a package goes from $7 billion down to $3 billion, but it's very targeted. It's much easier for there to be support from it, and not just support from the politicians who are going to vote for it or not, but support from the public when the help makes sense, when they see how it's going to improve our community. And that's what
Yes.
I spoke with you yesterday.
Oh, I think Alex, I think you're off mute there.
So I just wanted to check.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to mute him.
I did.
There we go.
Perfect.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that there's more opportunities for us to innovate, for us to change things. And in early in the pandemic, one of the things that we suggested was to double the number that we, the opposition, suggested was to double the number of spots in the Canada Summer Jobs program to improve on the amount of funding that was available. Not being 50%, you make it 100%, and not knowing what to do at the time, the government did make proposals on different things. There was they proposed a $912 million spend on a different program, but that money could have been half of that money would have been wisely invested into the existing program that the administration of it has already figured out, and we already have people who know how to access it, and that's the Canada Summer Jobs program. So and the other program I'm referencing was the Never Happened Canada Student Services Grant. But the Canada Summer Jobs program, we've seen the successes of it, and so there are opportunities, and maybe it would be limiting it to certain sectors, certain industries, but that's something that we could that could be looked at, and I will absolutely take that back, because it's not something, Rob, that it's not something that has been discussed of late.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. I think that was a great question, because we were even looking at that going, darn, I wish we had somebody in September or October or some of the programs that we were running. So this is great. I have another question from Jeanette. Jeanette, did you want to read the question, or did you want me to go ahead and read the question for a small?
Read the question.
Okay, perfect.
Good morning, MP Barrett.
Good morning.
With my volunteer hat on, not from the perspective of the center, one of the ways that we can alleviate the labor issue is to open up immigration and refugee pathways again. I understand there's a new plan being announced in February. So can you speak specifically to that plan, and will the government be opening our doors? How might you be able to influence that so that we can be supporting those people in danger and need, and then also helping our businesses?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I touched on the importance of our immigration system in addressing some of the workforce shortages that we have, and of course we need to bring people to Canada who want to be here, because they love the aspirations of our country. We want to bring people here who have family here. We want to bring people here who have a skill that we need, and we need to, really find ways to attract those folks. We also, of course, need to make sure that anyone who is in need of refuge, of safety, that we're bringing them here as well, and that we've got support programs, and that we've got a plan to settle them in areas where they'll be successful. With respect to the announcements expected by the government, I can't. I look forward to the announcements as well. We've seen targets set, but not a targeted way of really of achieving the numbers that they've presented. And will I advocate for our area? Absolutely. We're in need. The other thing that I would touch on is, with respect to immigration programs, is the TFW program, and we just need to make sure that we have the capacity to do all of these things, so that if we're continuing to process refugees, if we are continuing to process immigration, that we all permanent people who are here coming on on long-term work visas, people who are coming as permanent residents, people who are coming seeking the citizenship pathway through either of those, that we also have bandwidth to address the temporary foreign worker program. And I think it's important that there's citizenship pathways as well for those folks, people who are have demonstrated their ability to work and their willingness to work here and their ability to follow our country's laws. Those are the kind of people that we want here. So we want to provide pathways to them. So supporting that system, I think it's really important. The question that I get asked an awful lot is, what's the number? Well, do you think we should cap at 200,000? Do you think we should cap at 400,000? I don't think that there is just an easily available number, but I do think that we need to identify what our needs are as a country. What is our deficit right now in skilled tradespeople? What is our deficit right now in people that do professional services? How many people are on a waiting list right now for family reunification, either through immigration or through refugee pathways? So what's that number? Okay, well, that has to be our baseline. Then, if we're not going to be able to satisfy the deficits in the workforce through our regular streams, and this is an extra bucket, we need to set that as our baseline number, and that's the minimum capacity that the government has to be able to process, along with the regular temporary foreign worker stream, because that continues to be incredibly important. And while I was answering your question, Jeanette, I divided my attention, and I see that Ian McFall from Burnbrae has referenced the TFW program in his question, and it's essential. And we know that for processing, we know that for food production, we know that for agriculture, that we will have serious problems if that program is not functioning well. And so we need to make sure that that the government is addressing those needs, and we're not just, again, saying really big numbers. Oh, we're going to spend $10 billion on COVID relief. Yeah, but what are you spending it on? We can spend less more efficiently than just saying we're going to do a lot and create new programs and new red tape for people to have to deal with. And that goes back to why the CFDCs are successful. The same is true with immigration. Let's target those measures and work with partners like our community, which has shown that it has the ability to welcome newcomers, people who are new to this country, and then see what supports we need to develop here, whether it's language services or social services that are compatible with with what folks are used to from wherever they're coming from. So I don't have any information specifically about the announcement. I look forward to it, and once it is announced, I welcome your feedback on how we can give the government a hand in dialing it in, so that we can see the benefits of that here in our community.
Thank you, MP Barrett. I just wanted to add that I received a text from one of our refugees Monday morning after the snowfall. He bought himself a nice little sporty Honda, and it didn't go very far in the snow. So he's decided his next vehicle will be a pickup truck.
Good for him.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jeanette. So next question would be from Glenn from St. Lawrence College. Go ahead, Glenn.
Thank you. Hi, Michael. Good to see you again. And thanks as always for your support of St. Lawrence College and the college system in general. Before I ask my question, I just want to add to some of the skilled trades discussion. I think I saw Jamie Puttycombe on the line here as well. And one of the neat programs that we have is this mobile skills lab, where we basically have an apprenticeship opportunity for folks in high schools and various places throughout the region, that they can get a glimpse and a taste of what some of the trades are like. And so Jamie has been, I think he's put on about 20,000 kilometers this summer, taking that mobile skills lab all across the region. So just a hats off. There's been a lot of discussion about immigration, and colleges play a large role in this as well, and in terms of attracting international students who for the most part in the college system want to come to Canada to stay here, to live here, to work and play here. So one of the things that we're finding in terms of attracting international students is that housing is a real issue. And I know housing is municipal and with provincial support as well, but I'm wondering if we can get the attention of the federal government on this clearly needed infrastructure for in terms of housing for international students and for everybody actually. But that is a real stumbling block for us. It's part of infrastructure for our communities that we really need help on to help attract these students. I can tell you from experience, when we have international students and they come to our communities in Brockville or Cornwall or Kingston, they love it here. They just love it here. But in order to get them here and have a great experience, we need the proper supports for them. So just wondering if we can try to get the attention of the federal government on that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen, and I appreciate your work, Glenn, for our, for our community through St. Lawrence College, because as I mentioned, and as you well know, the vital role that our college grads play, and the program that Jamie has been supporting is tremendously important and kind of speaks to the gap that we have in getting people into into some hands-on training. Housing it's a front burner issue, and it's got to be. And though the role that the federal government has to play in many respects is more limited than municipal and provincial, I think it's really important that we take an active role and find ways to to really alleviate this housing supply challenge. I met someone who'd come to someone who was in Canada, a young man, and he was on a job placement. He'd gone to school in BC. He was on a job placement in Vista. And so two things. One, he was able to take that job placement only because of the transit initiative that's been established, and because he doesn't have a car. So transit, that's regional transit is important for our community. Two, I said, oh my goodness, that's great. Are you going to stick around? And he said, I don't know. It really depends on if I'm going to be able to find a place to live. And this is a key, and it goes back to, it goes back to James's question about attracting people to the area. And I've also said that often, or I've often said that once we have shown people the area, we need to be able to keep them here. And there's all of the pieces that go with that. Broadband access is one of those things. Physical infrastructure is one of those things. But housing availability, housing supply is critical. And we need to remove all of the barriers, also known as excuses, for government, so that we can get housing supply up, which of course will solve the supply side of the supply-demand challenge. And when governments are working together quickly, we'll call them challenges, we'll call them barriers. But when we're just kind of seeing that this is the perennial problem, we're going to call them excuses. And I think that's the framing that we have to do this year. I think that in the municipal housing municipal affairs and housing minister, in our MPP, we've got someone who's really dialed into housing. And my office is working with our MPP and with the United Counties on trying to innovate a bit on housing. And we've had some meetings lately with Indwell, and I'm going to look for every opportunity I can to lend my voice, support, time, resources from my office so that we can help alleviate that supply side. And that's what we need to really say the expectation is for all levels of government. So like I said, we've got a municipal and a provincial election this year, and we can advocate for those for whom we provide service for by making sure that they've got a safe and affordable place to live. And so I think that that's the role that the federal government needs to play. They want to spend a lot of money in big cities. That's great. They need money. And if we're seeing units built for the money that they're committing and spending, great. But if we're seeing just lots of promises without specific concrete deliverables that are then we're actually seeing delivered on, then we need to challenge that at every opportunity. So I think that we're at the right time where we're actually seeing people agree that we need to address this as a problem. You're hearing it. It's a bipartisan conversation. It's an intergovernmental conversation. So I think that we need to continue that so that the folks that you're training are staying.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Michael.
And just in the purpose of time, we'll just ask one more question, and that would be from Sue from the EEC, the Employment and Education Center.
Thanks, Pam. And hi, Michael. Good morning. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing for our community. Our tiny homes, Employment Education Center's tiny homes has really rallied the community to help with some of the solutions of the issues that you've brought up today. You know, things from skilled, preparing young people for employment and entry into skilled trades, solutions around housing. The city of Brockville has been a great partner around getting the tiny homes we're building up and available to people. Labor shortages are being solved. I'm saying this not only as a promotion for us, but also as an example of how your YES program really works. So the youth employment skills strategy really works in building the essential skills necessary to have young people enter and maintain jobs in our local economy. I'm wondering when that funding is going to be released for another round.
So Sue, thank you for the question. It's great to see you this morning, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Tiny homes is it's definitely something that people are, it turns heads. People are very interested in it. It's innovative. I think it's exactly the kind of thing that we as a community need to be supporting. We need to do more of that. So thank you for your work also in whether it's distributing rapid tests or also getting people their hands-on training and getting them plugged in with the employers that are on this call across all industries. The whatever barriers that can, and not knowing the specific answer to your question, I would just say that whatever barriers we can remove, we need to remove them quickly. And so you've been quick to pick up the tools that are provided and really get people into the workforce. So that hands-on training, that housing affordability, these are the issues that are preeminent. And so I appreciate your commitment. Please connect with Randy in my office. And then if we get any kind of heads up on that funding release, we'll certainly let you know. And of course, anyone on the call, I would just say, they'll just take the opportunity to say that, if you're applying for funding in a government program, there's nothing more disappointing for me than to get flagged with someone, to have a ministry send us a letter and say, we're just giving you a heads up that X organization has been declined their funding request. Well, I had no idea that they'd made an application. And so am I able to put, to pick up the phone and say, oh, you've got to make sure that these people get the money? No, I can't. But what I can do is my office will make regular inquiries on your file. My office will make sure that we can tune up and dial in your application. We can help make sure that we're meeting all the time, the deadlines, see if there's other funding streams available. Please work with us. We're here to serve you. Canada Summer Jobs is a great example of that. But once the program has closed and that letter has been sent that you're unsuccessful, it's a lot tougher for us to help you out than if you ask on the front end. So Sue, we very much enjoy working with you and your team. And so look forward to continue doing that.
Perfect. I know that there was a few more questions. What I could do, Michael, is send them to you, and then maybe you can respond back to them on an individual.
Sure.
There was one, I think you see the chat there, but just in the purpose of timing for everybody. But I do appreciate everybody's time. So I'm just going to allow Keely to close out the meeting.
I want to thank everybody today. What a fulsome session, because that was a good solid half an hour of question and answer. So thank you everybody for your questions, and Michael, really for your candidness. And that's really what I think I noted today is just we're still searching for answers, and because there's no, I say it in our business all the time, there's no silver bullet. So there's going to be a lot of areas that we do need to work on. So thank you for that candidness today. And as Pam mentioned, please forward your questions. Even though we're wrapping up right now, it doesn't mean it's over. We have lots of opportunity to still get some answers. Anyone in attendance today has had their name automatically entered into a prize draw. So thank you, Pam and Jan and the Chamber. The winner will be announced next week. Watch on our Facebook page for details. Upcoming events, as when Michael opened, he talked about MPP Steve Clark. His breakfast Zoom call will also be by Zoom on February 8th. And the mayor update will be on March 14th. And the location is undecided because we still don't know where we are and what we'll be looking like in a couple of months. And of course, our AGM is Thursday, March 31st. And again, that location will be determined, and we'll be, of course, announcing our Lifetime Achievement Award winner on that day. And that is all my announcements and everything that I have to share for today. And I just want to thank Pam and Jen for all their hard work, as always, putting these breakfasts together, these chats together. So thank you everybody for your time today, MP Barrett, and everybody for just taking an hour out of your day and being part of our meeting with Mr. Barrett. So thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. And also, I just wanted to say thank you once again to our great partner, Thousand Islands CDC, and also for their award winning of the 2021 Presidential Award. So congratulations again on that.